Good morning. I missed the last couple of days just because wasn't waking up early enough to kind of want to sit and do a video. So I'm gonna do the last. This is gonna be day 3, 4, and 5 kind of combined. Um, so I feel mainly stable as far as like the raw emotions. I feel like I've somewhat stabilized and like have some more difficult times than others, and but overall I feel obviously in a much better spot. Everything's starting to come together as far as therapy and all the care that I'm going to need going forward to kind of make sure I take care of myself. And my appetite still is kind of all over the place. I'm actually starting to get kind of worried, mainly because I've lost about 7 or 8 pounds from just like having an extremely decreased appetite. But I'm also not burning a whole lot of energy at the moment just because I'm just, I wouldn't say lethargic, but just not burning as much energy, I feel like, as what I was before. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just kind of burning calories and somehow, and that's the reason why I'm losing so much weight. I don't know. Now it's kind of getting into the parts I'm not looking forward to, which is moving out of the house that we bought about 2-3 years ago. As much as it's kind of stressed, I think the ex and I out, honestly, staying in this house has been difficult since I've been back, to the point where I'm just reminded of so many memories, so many good things, so many bad things, but mainly the good ones is the ones I'm holding on to. I'm trying not to hold on to any of the negative stuff. I'm using that as like something to use to kind of like move forward and be better as a person. So I am going to be, I think the decision that we came up with was we're going to rent out the house until the housing market gets a little bit better. It's probably more on the logical side for me to kind of do that and get things a little bit squared away. Plus, I don't think either of us are kind of looking forward to that. So I'm going to move out to an apartment with my son, and that'll be kind of the way moving forward. The positive thing is the apartment that I'm moving to is about maybe 5 minutes from his school, so that'd be actually really good to get him to school and then not have to worry about stressing about driving all the way back down south or up north. It'd be relatively good. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. And it's a nice set of apartments. I've definitely noticed the apartments have gotten much better than what they were before. But it's still going to be walking out the house for the last time is probably going to be extremely difficult. I'm trying to prepare for it, but I don't think that mentally I'm going to be able to prepare myself for it. I think there's going to be a flood of emotions, and the ex will be there, so I think it's going to be kind of a bit of closure for both of us, but probably still extremely emotional. So I'm not looking forward to that part. And one thing I would like to point out that it's kind of popped up at least once or twice over the past couple of days. Apple does a really good job of like making memories. The problem is the random notifications of come check out this memory. I've kind of really been a sucker punch to the gut. One came up yesterday that honestly brought me back to tears, just because, looking over the years back to 2016 and just kind of seeing like how everything was in the beginning and how everything was at our prior house, and like how much happier we were before we got our, I'm calling big kid jobs, and took on so much more stress that we stopped being ourselves. It was kind of heartbreaking, honestly, to see how everything kind of, I guess, fell apart. That's kind of like one thing I want to say is, you know, going into a better job and getting into a bigger house was never something I ever anticipated we would ever get into the point of ever actually being able to afford or do. I would say that honestly, just the entire process of being in this house with the backyard and some of the stuff that wasn't working initially because it was a new build was just overly, just put a sour taste, I think, in our mouth. I think that was just kind of like one of the big things about it, that we kind of just disliked so much, and then just kind of got hit with a couple of surprises over the years that kind of made us probably not enjoy this house as much as we probably could have. I mean, it was good because it was only 5-10 minutes to work for her, and then probably about 24 minutes for me, and then 45 minutes if I had to go up north. So it had some pros and cons, but I think honestly moving out is going to be probably the best for both of us, obviously. I mean, she's already moved out, but kind of officially taking everything of our stuff out of it. The problem is selling all the stuff that I have is going to be something I need to work on this weekend, which means I have to create a Facebook account again to put something on Facebook Marketplace, which I'm not looking forward to doing that, but it's usually the easiest way to sell stuff fairly quickly. And then start working on kind of wrapping stuff up. Yeah, just, I don't know, like, I feel like I do good certain days and then kind of get reminded of, and I guess this might be some sort of guilt that I have of maybe always want to be a perfectionist from kind of like I wouldn't say what my mom expected, but kind of like the impression that that we all got from her was that sometimes we were never good enough. But I've definitely been beating myself up more, especially over the last couple of days. Honestly, last night at dinner, hearing my son ask why mommy and I weren't living together, and I know she's had the conversation with him, but this is the first time I've had to like sit down and try to explain it to him and try to make it make sense. And I don't know if I made it worse or better, but I'm struggling. But for him to say, I don't want mommy not to love you anymore, really kind of hit me like right in the chest. And I felt like, honestly, I had failed everyone, which, you know, he's in the middle and he's trying to understand everything and trying to come to grips with all the changes. But that was just real hard to hear him say something like that he wanted us to be in love again, and I couldn't do anything, honestly, I felt, to comfort him, which really sucks. It honestly makes me feel like I've just failed at everything. And the only thing that I'm really good at is work, which is not what I want to be. But I know that's probably just me beating myself up because of everything that's kind of played out recently. But it's real tough to kind of hear your kid say that. And then he's not sleeping in the room by himself, so he's sleeping in the bed with at her house he's sleeping with her, and then at my house he's sleeping with me, and I think it's what I kind of feel like is he's feeling like he is going to be abandoned, because he said he didn't want to be alone, and I think he is just wanting to be near one of the parents, because I think he thinks that one of us are just going to disappear out of his life, which is obviously not going to happen, but that's the only kind of what it feels like he's struggling with inside of his young brain, which is honestly, I hope this whole thing doesn't affect him like creatively and like him being a kid. I want him to be happy and playful and do all the stuff that as a kid he needs to be doing. So I hope that this whole thing doesn't really affect him and change who he is, because he is one of the most loving kids I've ever been around. I mean, same thing for the two non-biologic kids that we shared, was that they were extremely loving. Zoe was very courageous and strong, and definitely able to kind of be that like extremely sweet kid and kind of want to take care of people. Like, I feel like she honestly has like a young aged motherly instinct already. And then Xander's just extremely intelligent, and honestly he's extremely courageous by the fact that he'll stand up for other kids that someone might say something about them or say a word that they really shouldn't be saying, which I'm not going to repeat. He's definitely kind of like wanted to stand up for them, and that's always been something I've been very proud of, is his ability to kind of be that force for good and to kind of stand up for people. And Zoe's the same way, but Xander's definitely more outgoing as far as like doing that. So that's honestly like really kind of what the last couple of days have been like. I will say that the days by myself, I have been doing a lot more reflection and thinking internally, and kind of looking at everything as a whole, and looking at what I need to do to better myself, and which is kind of a struggle, trying to get everything done with the house and kind of figure all that stuff out, and also going back to work. It's kind of just been kind of fairly difficult to kind of get back into like a real good routine, just because everything at this point is new. And I feel like I'm constantly worrying about every little thing, especially with Axel, and trying to make sure that I'm more calm than probably I need to be, just to kind of make sure he feels loved and cared for, especially with this like extreme transition for him. But honestly, just needing to be that person anyways, is being more nurturing. It's been something I've kind of struggled with, is I've always been like the typical kind of father figure where unfortunately I'm the one that does like the more strict punishment or something along those lines, like not necessarily like strict punishment, but one of the things that she's always kind of pointed out is if she is kind of speaking to the kids and kind of, I wouldn't say yelling or scolding or anything like that, but kind of like having that conversation of like trying to do some corrective thing, the kids would always look at me, because I think that they always assumed that she wasn't going to do anything, even though she would, or just because I'm a little bit more firm, especially like with my voice and everything. So that's, I think, going to be a switch for both of us. And obviously she's more capable of it than I am, but these are all new skills and things that I'm gonna have to adjust to myself, that I feel confident that I'm going to be fine in, but it still doesn't make it any easier. And honestly, I'm trying to take it day by day, but there are definitely days where I wake up and I just feel extremely stressed about everything that's changing, and I know that will get better, but right now it's just all over the place, and sleep is probably gotten worse. It's been kind of up and down this week, but it's definitely not where it probably needs to be. But I think that's just kind of how things are going. So I'm hoping once I move out of this house and move into the apartment and kind of close that and rent out the place, that life moving forward will kind of be much easier as far as how everything's going to play out. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I think it's just going to be extremely difficult time period as I try to learn more about myself and repair probably years and years of trauma. Honestly, the day that she kind of said that we were getting divorced was the same amount of dread that when I got called that my brother had shot himself. Like, that was the amount of dread that I've felt walking into the house, and sadness is that whole part. I know that people say that losing a spouse is like having a family member die, and that honestly is what it feels like. So it's kind of bringing a lot of those memories up, and I feel like maybe I was never fully recovered from that, because while my dad was deployed in the military, my brother was probably the main guy outside of my grandfather that was probably I was around most of the time growing up. So yeah, so I think that's kind of triggering that, and then kind of triggering my own thoughts about how everything has kind of turned out. So I think that's why I'm having maybe a tougher time than maybe some people would. I don't know. But I'm hoping that the next couple of days and the next week will be significantly better as far as moving forward. I got some appointments coming up, so I'm hoping that maybe some deeper therapy will kind of help and kind of get me on the right path. So, but yeah. I guess my plan for these videos was to kind of use them as a video journal to kind of vomit out everything that's kind of going on, but also as to kind of look back at myself in about a year and kind of see the growth and changes that I've made, and also to use them as a way to hold myself accountable. That's one of the things that I struggle with, is holding myself accountable. And then when I do hold myself accountable, I'm like extremely hard. So trying to use this to see that, the growth that I've done and the changes that have happened, I think is the main purpose for this. And then obviously if anybody gets any use out of this or any positivity, like that's obviously a benefit as well. But this is going to definitely be for me. So, all right, well, I'm going to go drink some coffee, get dressed, and kind of head to work. But everyone have a good day, and just love big, I guess, and hold your loved ones tight, and make sure that they know that they're loved, because sometimes they don't know how much they are loved, and that's important. So, but I'll keep my head up. You guys keep your head up. Have a good weekend.